Hello and welcome everyone to this interview session with a very close friend, Dr. Gaurav Patil. And Gaurav has been my friend, mentor, and guide throughout my anesthesia residency as well as beyond. And I would like to introduce Dr. Gaurav, who is currently working at University College Hospitals in London as a senior registrar in anesthesia. He has completed his DNB anesthesia from Hinduja Hospital in Mumbai, and he has also done his FRCA. He's done with the biggest exam that is there in anesthesia. And that's why we've invited him to our platform today to share his experience. He's been in the UK for quite some time now. And as we all know, everyone in anesthesia looks forward to UK as the first stop abroad for practicing anesthesia. So we want to know from him how was his experience and what would he recommend to his juniors and what is the pathway ahead. So over to you, Gaurav. Tell us a little bit about your journey before we ask you the specific questions in detail.
Right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for such a kind and exaggerated introduction, Janvi. I'm not that big, but yes, I have managed to work in the UK for 5 years and I have kind of settled down here. So just to tell a bit about myself, my MBBS is from Grant Medical College in JJ Hospital. And Amrit, Dr. Amrit Nasta, who's one of the faculties of Conceptual Anesthesia, is a very good close friend of mine. And he decided to become a surgeon. I decided to become, but I decided to move to UK, and he decided to. So yes, I completed my MBBS from Grant Medical College, and then I went to PD Hindu Hospital for um, doing the anesthesia. I worked in Hindu Hospital in ICU for 3 months. Then I went to Tamil Hospital for a year. And I worked in HL Reliance Foundation Hospital for years, and then I came to UK in 2018. Been in the UK since last 5 years now. I've worked for 2 years as a fellow, and then I got into the training program, and I'm 3 years into the training program, and I've got 2 more years to go. Uh, that's it about me. So, can we want to proceed with specific questions?
Yes. So my first question is why and when did you decide that you want to move abroad after your training, and what was the main reason behind it?
So, I had decided to move to the UK when I was doing my DNB anesthesia itself. Uh, because one, a lot of my seniors had moved to the UK as an anesthetist and they were liking the work-life balance and liking the way anesthesia worked in the UK. Um, I was too lazy to get on with the paperwork. That's why it took me 3 more years to go to the UK. Because life in Mumbai is, as an anesthetist, is so busy and our working schedules are really busy. So it basically you don't get time to pause and think what you want to do in future. Although I knew what I wanted to do, it still took me so much time because life happens and a lot of other stuff happens. The main reason for me to move to the UK is was that the UK is looked up upon in the world as to having a standard anesthesia practice all over in general. Obviously, there are variations everywhere, but generally, the anesthesia practice is very standardized all over the UK. And a lot of data comes out of the UK, so there's a lot of research and there's a lot of audits and quality improvement projects. There are national level quality improvement projects, which we just did a seventh national NAP, it's called National Audit Project. I'm sure you must have read about those. So it's quite interesting the way data comes out in the UK. I had heard from my seniors that life in the UK is good in general. You get a good work-life balance. So there were lots of reasons for me to move to the UK as opposed to stay in Mumbai where I was and continue working in CA.
So, work life balance and evidence based learning, definitely two things that people look forward to when they are moving, especially to the UK as an anesthetist. So can you tell us what all did you have to prepare for your applications to the UK? Like for someone who's just finished their DNB or MD right now, in the next 1 year, what are the exams they have to give, and what are the papers that they should have prepared?
Right. So interestingly, as soon as I moved to the UK, I started getting a lot of calls about and messages from people from various groups who didn't even, yeah, I haven't hadn't even met, but they were just interested and they wanted to interact with us as well in the UK about how to move to the UK. So I've actually written an article which has been published last year in a journal called Journal of Anesthesia and Critical Care Reports. You can Google the article called An Anesthetist's Road to UK. Make sure you put "an" before and the first article you get, and remember the Journal of Anesthesia and Critical Care Reports, and you'll be able to access what I've written in terms of
Hmm.
the ways to move to the UK.
We'll put a link down for the
Long story
article
short,
for
there's
everyone to access it.
um yeah. So long story short, there's broadly three ways to move to the UK. You can either do PLAB, which is a basic level exam, like an entrance exam that we do in India after 20 PG. Um, there is a second exam which you can take if you don't want to take PLAB, because PLAB is a basic level exam, and obviously you all are qualified anesthetist. So it might be a bit difficult to go back to basics to do PLAB. PLAB has two steps, and the dates may be a bit difficult to get sometimes. The second set of exams that you can do is either you can do an MRCP, which is a physician exam, or the primary FRCA, which is an anesthetist exam, or the European Diploma of Anesthesia and Critical Care. All of these exams will get you a GMC registration. So basically, like how a state registration or a national registration is important to practice in India, a GMC registration, a General Medical Council registration is important to practice in the UK, and these are ways of getting one. Either do a PLAB or give an MRCP or an FRCA or a European Diploma of Anesthesia and Critical Care exam. And third is a sponsorship route, or as they previously used to call it, ODTS, that is Overseas Doctors Training Scheme, which then got converted to the MTI, Medical
Medical training initiative.
Training Initiative Scheme, through which I came. Whereas now there are some trusts who directly sponsor your GMC registration. There's a difference between what kind of visa you get in either of these. The ODTS scheme is stopped, but the MTI scheme is still there, and the direct sponsorship is still there. So if you are in touch, it's basically if you're in touch with someone in the UK who works in a trust who can sponsor your GMC registration, then you just need the English exam, that is the IELTS, or the OAT, that is the Occupation Test exam with a qualified correct score to apply for such a post and then process your GMC registration. So, what I would suggest to the people who want to move to the UK and are firm on their decision is do take the English exam for sure. Whether you want to do PLAB or whether you want to do the exams or the European diploma is up to you, because it can be quite difficult to do these exams with your working schedule in India, because they take a lot of time. You need a lot of time to revise, and obviously you need to do these exams. You need to travel to the country where Europe to do European exams, or you need to travel to the UK to do the primary FRCA, OSCE, and YY exam. And the third route is the sponsorship route. So there are limited seats, there are limited places available, but you just have to be persistent and keep looking for it. It can take time. From the point that you get an interview call from a trust to the point that you actually come in the UK, it can take up to 6 to 7 months, regardless of the process that you go through. So you have to be patient and you have to sort of stay in your job while the process is going on until you get a call from GMC that they are happy with your registration and you have to go and ID.
Okay. So can you tell us, after you went to the UK, what were the immediate changes that you saw professionally? Like I've heard that people, when they go there, they sort of take a step back. They feel like, we are back to being a first year resident and everything is new, and it's quite intimidating as such. So is it actually like that, or it's easy to sort of gel into the system, and how much time does it take to adjust yourself to a completely different set of rules as what you have trained in India?
So this is a very good question actually, because a lot of people will paint a rosy picture about the UK. It's not so. There are some things that you will be overwhelmed with in the UK, mainly because it's a different language and it's a different culture. So the way people speak and the way people interact with each other is completely different and takes some time to get adjusted to the system. Secondly, yes, if you move to any country, doesn't matter which country you're moving to, be it in the Middle East, be it Australia, be it Canada, be it UK, be it America, you will have to take a step back because your qualification is mostly not recognized in these countries. So they will treat you like an MBBS doctor, has some anesthesia experience, and basically, as time passes and as you gain confidence of people, they will sort of move you up the ranks much more quickly than their own doctors who have done that kind of anesthesia. So yes, the initial frustrations are there that they are treating you like a junior doctor, where they're not being treated as you're not getting the list. They are trying to teach you simple things. You just have to take it with a pinch of salt and just accept that it is a different system. Uh, Obviously, anesthesia in general is not very different, but just the way they do it, and there's a lot of considerations for something called as human factors, which we don't necessarily consider in India. So the way you interact with your team, the way you interact with the patient is quite different uh, as to how we do it in India, as opposed to what happens in the UK. Thirdly, I would say your experience matters. So I was quite lucky to work in a tertiary care hospital, private hospital, a multi-specialty hospital in Mumbai, and then we have some ICU experience and some obstetric experience in India as well. So basic things that you need when you go to the UK is some obstetric experience, which you mostly gain in your training, but also some ICU experience because ICU can be a major part of your job, of your first job at least, when you move to the UK. So you need to be comfortable with managing patients on ICU. So because essentially the NHS is India's private hospitals, but being managed by the government because
Um,
it's that level of equipment that is available. So you need to be able to work with that level of sophisticated equipment, if you know what I mean. It's
hmm.
just the equipment and the infrastructure that is there in the tertiary care set, private setup in India. Very similar.
Okay. Tell us two things that you like about working as an anesthetist in the UK. So we are still talking about the professional part now. So two things that you like working as an anesthetist in the UK, and two things that you don't like, which you feel that it was, better back home in India.
So the two things that I like professionally working in the UK is one, the anesthetist has a lot more value and a lot more say in the patient's treatment. It's very important. I think we, as working as anesthetists in India, we always consider ourselves as secondary
Hmm.
service providers rather than being primary care physicians.
Hmm.
Whereas UK, you always end up thinking about the holistic.
You're like a peri-operative physician.
Yeah, you're
You're
like a perioperative physician all the time, as opposed to being just
just seeing
an
the patient in the
anesthetist.
OT, and yeah.
Yeah, so that is very important. The second thing that I like about professional aspect is the respect you get and the way you interact with colleagues. It can be very rewarding, and even the patients are quite thankful in the end. Most of the patients are quite thankful in the end. Whereas in India, patients don't really remember their anesthetists. Whereas here, get a lot of there's a lot of actual
Recognition for your
immediate,
work.
yeah, recognition for your work in the UK.
Hmm.
Disadvantages, I would say, or things that I did not like. Obviously, when you move to the UK, they will treat you like a junior anesthetist. So you have to sort of take that on board and work towards make your work tough and also basically you need to know about how to advertise yourself. You need to talk in a very polite way, but also advertise your work, um, to convince them that you're not someone who is junior and just started. That is one. And the other disadvantage is that you may have to travel to work a lot. So I'm in the training rotation. So there are hospitals in multiple places as opposed to training in India, that where you're training in one hospital. So travel to multiple hospitals to train during your training duration. And traveling can be a bit, depends on where you are. I'm in London, so I'm at the advantage that farthest hospital that I work in is about an hour away. Whereas elsewhere, you may have to move to places. Basically, if you're working at a hospital for 1 year, you may have to move close to the hospital. So you have to change.
Okay. All right. So now moving on to the personal aspect of your life. Congratulations, your wife is expecting. And
Thank you.
so definitely I know that you've got time when you've gone there. But I want to know, like, personally, how did your life change? Because you're completely moving your social circle. You're moving from a very familiar country to somewhere where you may not have enough friends or family. And how easy was it, or how difficult was it for you as well as your spouse to sort of, build up a social life or a personal life over there?
So, yeah, it's a very interesting question. And no one really thinks about it in India. Everyone, when they sit in India, they're like, yeah, I need to go to the UK, I need to go to the UK. You need to think about the social aspects of moving your entire life to another country, especially where you're moving. I was quite lucky to move to London, which is a bit like Mumbai, but obviously not as busy. It is still busy. It's the busiest airport in the world. But in terms of city life, it is quiet. So you have to adjust to the environment a bit. You need to make friends. Not necessarily all need to be Indians. You can have friends who are Sri Lankans. I have friends who are British. So you need to have that ability to make friends, to create a social circle of your own so that you get to socialize when you want to. Obviously, everything has to be pre-planned and like from to and meet up. So yeah, having a social circle is important. That can be challenging sometimes. You do get there's a good work-life balance, so you get time to think about yourself and think about what you want to do in future, which is a big advantage. Um, Adjusting to the weather is very important. The weather in the UK is not exactly how it is in India, that moderately hot and cold winters. This year can be harsh, depending where you're moving. If you move further north in the UK, like north, weathers can be even harsh and in terms of snow and rain. You have to be able to adjust to that. Most of you will move to the UK, will move to the UK in the winters, where you'll feel that where have I come? This weather is horrible. Sun sets at 8 o'clock. Right, the sun rises at 8 o'clock and sets at three in the afternoon. So you leave for work from home in the dark and you come back from home in the dark. Also make sure what your spouse or better half is going to do in the UK before moving here. Don't be selfish. My wife did not have a job, so she had to find a job. So just figure out the other part of it as well, because there is a cost of living increases going on. So it's better to analyze how you're going to manage this.
Okay. Another thing that I wanted to ask you is, if you look at the financial goals, I feel like people just see their salary post residency and then they say, oh my God, but if I go to the UK, I'm going to get paid at least 4 or 5 times more than what I would earn in India as, as a fresh pass out. But if we forget this part and we move on to something which is maybe say 10 or 15 years down the line after you've completed your PG, do you think there is a vast difference in the amount, or rather the financials, of being an anesthetist in India, how much you earn versus being an anesthetist in the UK? Does it make a lot of difference for, especially for people who have to, literally set up everything from base and they want to earn well? Does it make a good financial decision to move abroad and earn in pounds as compared to earn in India in rupees? But that is 10 to 15 years down the line, not immediately after your PG.
So that's also something which is very important to consider, because yes, pay is something that you move to the UK, and I had moved to the UK. One of the reasons that I moved, improvement in pay. But like you said, as a registrar, as a post MD or post MDNB registrar, if you're working in a corporate, you're earning a salary of what, 1 lakh to 1.2 lakhs, I guess. Whereas when you move to the UK, your salary post taxes is around 3.5 to 4 lakh rupees, which is 3.5 to 4,000 pounds. Obviously, monetarily, that seems like 3 to 4 times again, by three to four times. But cost of living is also different in the UK. Yes, Mumbai is expensive, but London is even more expensive. Depends on where you're moving to the UK. If you're moving farther up north or somewhere remote, then you're able to rent, and your cost of living is lesser. You're able to save more money. If you're moving into a place like London, which is expensive to live in, you may not save that much. Um, 10 years down the line, as a consultant, you will definitely depend on what kind of consultant you become, what specialty consultant you become, or you become a generalist. You will have a very good work-life balance, firstly. So, as a consultant in India, you will work 6 days a week. Here, as a consultant, you will work 3.5 days a week. That's a straight benefit. Financially, your pay will be much better in terms of comparison. So, a consultant in the NHS starts at a salary of 90,000 pounds a year, which is 90 lakh rupees. If you consider 100. Obviously, that is pre-tax, so you get taxed, and then you get about 5.5 to 6,000 pounds a month, which is 5.5 to 6 lakh rupees in hand after your taxes. Plus, you've got pensions and all those benefits. So your pay is roughly double when you start as a consultant here, whereas when you as compared to what you start as a consultant in India. Cost
Anywhere
of living
between
again.
two and a half.
Yeah, cost of living is an issue everywhere, and it's an issue
Hmm.
here as well. So, but you can always sort of do private practice, make extra less and earn. So there's a scope to earn more and just income up.
Okay,
Whereas in India, you're working 6 days a week, earning that same fixed salary. There's no matter you're working as
correct.
don't kind of. So yes, monetarily the benefits have gone down over the past few years. Like people who came here 20 years ago are doing really, really well financially as compared to people like me who've come here 5 years ago or starting to me um, just surviving to do weekends. I wouldn't say that because it's been 5 years here. I bought a flat of my own last year, and I bought a car, which I probably wouldn't have been able to do with a salary in India.
Yeah.
So I can't compare. I can't say that I'm making ends meet, doing reasonably well. And as a registrar, so if I become a consultant, my
Also, I believe it's difficult, means the number of opportunities in India are quite limited, especially in private hospitals. So you have to wait a long time before you actually become a consultant and start earning well. Whereas in the UK, I think it's a fixed process. You finish your training and there will be a post and you will become a consultant or uh,
yes. So I kind of agree there that the competition is a bit higher in India, but it again depends on your mindset. If you are working in a tier two or tier three city in India, and you've
mm,
moved to a tier one city to do your post graduation, and then you've sort of decided that you want to go to the UK. That's not a bad idea, but you can definitely basically you can find out how the initiatives are doing in the tier two or tier three city. If they're earning well, they have a good work life balance, you can find out from them. Again,
mm,
there are a lot of it varies on who you're taking advice from. So I've taken advice from a lot of people. I had a lot of friends in India, I had a lot of friends here, and you have to take everyone's advice with a pinch of salt. Take the
Hmm.
bits that you want to take and leave out a bit, the rest of the bit, and then make a decision for yourself, as opposed to someone else making a decision for you.
Hmm. Also, I really believe what we've reiterated throughout the interview is that the work life balance when you move to the UK is far better as compared to in India. Like in India, you're working almost Monday to Saturday and at least 8 to 10 hours a day. Whereas in the UK, the hours are limited per week. So you get a lot of time for yourself to cultivate your own hobbies, or if you want to do something else, like probably host YouTube sessions like this. So you're definitely going to have a longer life when you're staying there. So that's my view, sitting on this side of
Yeah,
the ocean.
I mean, just sharing this sort of harsh reality that you end up coming to the UK and you end up thinking that why have I come here? Should I just go back? So this has happened to me a lot of times, and this happens to everyone. Everyone thinks about going back immediately within 6 months or within 1 year of coming back, saying that what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing. So when I used to think about this thing, I always used to step back. That what am I doing here right now in the UK, and what will I do in India if I pack up and move to India after 1 year? And the answer always used to be that it's better to stay here in the UK rather than move to India because one, I find it very difficult to work on a Saturday. I probably work one Saturday a month as a registrar, as a consultant, even lesser. That will be even lesser. Whereas in India, you have a 6 day
Have
week.
to work
You have to work
every
Saturdays.
Saturday.
You can get long weekends without taking annual leaves. So you have a lot of time for yourself. You have a lot of time to holiday, to go somewhere. Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
I'll give you an example. In the first year that I moved here, I went to Paris for 5 days.
Hmm.
I took 1 day as an annual leave, and the rest of the 4 days were actually off for me.
Hmm.
Whereas in India, you have to take all your leaves and then book a holiday where you are going to go somewhere locally. Whereas I went to
Correct.
Paris, which is in Europe, which is close by. So
Europe is.
yeah, so basically it's the harsh math reality of life, and
Yeah.
you always end up choosing the UK. That's my opinion. Again, everyone has to sort of look at it from their own perspective and from their own situation.
Yeah.
The personal aspect that I would like to share is yes, if people are with a family with kids, childcare is a bit expensive here, so you need to have one person watching your child all the time. So either you need to have parents who are ready to move, one of the parent who's ready to sort of move with you and stay with you for like 4 or 5 months to work side, and then you can take child to childcare for 1 month, then another parent comes in. And the other is domestic help. So you don't have any domestic help in the UK, but you do have appliances like dishwashers and washing machines which you can use. So I found a way around it. We found a way around it, but it can be sometimes difficult to cope with this. So a lot of aspects to consider when you're moving to any other country, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's not all rosy on the other side, but I would say it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. So it's basically a lot of pros, a lot of cons too. But it absolutely depends on what are your goals in life. What do you want to look forward to when you are probably 50 or 60 years old? If you want to be working, want to be like, like literally into the thick of action, or you want to have multiple streams of doing different things. You want to do anesthesia, but you also want to cultivate your side hobby. You also want time to travel the world. So it's what you want in life as your goals, obviously your family expectations as well as your spouse expectations, and taking into consideration all of those factors before you make the big plunge or the big move to another country. And would you like to add anything, Gaurav, before we wind up this session? And we would love to have your comments as well as your questions, because literally there are at least one or two residents every month who will be approaching Gaurav and asking him, how is your life there, and how do we go there, and what do we do once we are there. So there are a lot of questions, especially about UK as well as US, and we would be happy to answer them in the comment section. But any closing statements, Gaurav?
So I think one closing statement for me is when I was making a decision to go to the UK and I delayed it and delayed it, delayed it, and finally eventually came to the UK and obviously realized that it's not all rosy on this. It's essentially your decision. No one else is going to make a decision for you. All people can do is give you advice for or against. It depends on how many people you speak who are for it, how many people you speak are against it, and then you have to make the decision. But the decision is yours. And if the decision is firm, then you will never regret it. If the decision is two-faced, that I should go and then I'll probably come back, because a lot of people who come to the UK mm, rarely end up going back. Obviously, that will increase now with the cost of living crisis. So it depends on what your goals in life are again. Whether your plan, whether you want to come to the UK, you don't want to come to the UK, you want to come to UK for short term, you want to come to UK for long term. There are You need to ask the specific questions and you will get that kind of advice. But eventually, the decision is yours to weigh the pros and cons and make the move. So it's just
All right. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We know you're post call and you're so tired, but absolutely thank you. Anyways, you have to work only 3.5 days. So thank you for joining.
no. So that is as a consultant, as a registrar, you have to work more. You have to work 48 hours a week, but that's still better. In India, we do 24-hour on calls.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, Gaurav. Gaurav has been the most helpful senior for the maximum number of anesthesia people in Mumbai. I can tell you, everyone knows him over here because he's like amazing to ask for advice. He will give you both sides of the coin so that you can make the best decision for yourself. And we would be happy to also answer whatever questions you all have in the comments below. And I think we'll wind up the session with that. Thank you so much, Gaurav.
Thank you, Janvi, and thank you, everyone. Hope you make the move. Ask the right people, make the right choice. And good luck with all your plans.
Thank you.